This is Michael Hart of ElimCounselling Services, and I want to share with you today 5 A's of turning your adversity into opportunities. I have counseled thousands of people over many years, and I have discovered that it's not the circumstances that you go through that make or break you, but it's what you do within those circumstances. What if I were to tell you that there is someone that God is blessing, that God is with this person, that God is giving this person success? What kinds of images would begin to form in your mind as I tell you about this kind of person? Maybe you would imagine a prosperous business person or someone who is doing well in academics. But what if I were to tell you that those words were written in Genesis 39 about a man, Joseph, who was actually in prison at the time for a crime that he did not commit? And I have taken some of these letters from his attitude while in prison to talk about the 5 A's of turning your adversity into opportunity. The first A is for attitude. We found by reading the text, or you'll find by reading the text in Genesis 39, that while Joseph was in prison, he was not wallowing in self-pity. Oh, poor me. Why did this have to happen to me? Lord, why did this person tell such a lie about me? He had an attitude of hope. He was already looking to the time when he would be out of prison. And so your attitude in the midst of what you're going through is very, very important. If your attitude is one of dejection and hopelessness, then you might not turn that adversity into opportunity. So begin to have hope. Begin to find things that you can pin your hope on. And one strategy for doing that is what I call reframing. See if you can reframe what you're going through in a positive way. And this might be hard, but there is always a way of seeing an advantage to what you're going through. There is always a way that you can have hope and begin to look ahead. We see in the story of Joseph in his life earlier on, he was sold into slavery by his brothers who betrayed him. And his way of reframing that, many years later when he met up with his brothers who thought that he was not going to kill them because he was in a position of power, his reframing is, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. So in other words, God has a purpose, even in the midst of this darkness and this suffering and this heartache that I am going through. Having hope, having this attitude is a key to turning your adversity into opportunity. The second A is for altruism. Altruism is this attitude that focuses your attention on helping others. We find that in Genesis chapter 40, while Joseph was in prison, he was put in charge of all the other prisoners because of his diligent attitude for serving and for helping, even when he was in prison for a crime he did not commit. He could have been bitter. He could have been dejected. He could have been hopeless. But his spirit of altruism is that I am going to find a way to serve others even while I am in this difficult situation. And there is a benefit that comes from that, because when you begin to serve and help others, it takes your focus off your own pain. It helps you to cope better and you become more resilient. The third A is for awareness. One of the things I find in especially in Christian circles today is that many people have this pretend the thing that they're doing while you're suffering, where they're pretending, I'm so happy while I am suffering, and it doesn't matter what I am going through. My husband is dead, but I'm not even going to cry because he's in heaven with Jesus. This is not a good thing to do. Having awareness of your emotion is a key factor to overcoming adversity. We find that even Jesus, when his friend Lazarus died, that the Bible tells us that Jesus wept. He got in touch with his emotion. He didn't pretend that it wasn't painful. But I think many Christians today, because they are putting forward this false resilience, they pretend that everything is okay. And if you ask them, how are you doing? They'll say, I am fine. But deep inside, they're hurting and they're falling apart. Be honest about your emotion. King David in Psalm 55 was honest about his emotion. He said, my heart is in anguish within me. Fear and the trembling have come upon me. And oh, that I had the wings of a dove, I would fly away and be at rest. So this is someone who is honest about his feelings. And we have many of those Psalms today because David, while going through this suffering, would spend the time to write out what he was going through and the feelings surrounding it. So one of the key principles to overcoming your adversity and to turning it into opportunity is to have emotional awareness that result in you spending the time to write out what you're going through, how you are feeling, and even reasons that you can have hope, reasons why you can have hope. We see that David in that same Psalm 55 where he talks about all of these emotions also said, cast your care on the Lord because he cares for you. So this is a man who was in touch. King David was in touch. He was aware of his emotions, but he also was aware of his relationship with God. So awareness is a key factor. And the fourth A is for acceptance. Sometimes we resist the things that have come in our lives. We push back against them and we wish that they weren't there, and we go to bed every night in agony thinking, why this has come into my life. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, said, what you resist persist. In the 5 stages of grief, acceptance is one of the key steps. Acceptance brings you to this point where you can accept, where you can begin to heal, and where you can begin to move on. If you do not get to that place of acceptance, you are going to be stuck in struggling with the circumstances that have entered your life. And the 5th A is for alliance. You can't go through the struggles and the adversity that you're going through alone. You need to have people around you. And this having people around you also include having a belief in a higher power, an alliance with a higher power. In the case of Joseph, we are told in Genesis 39 that God was with him. He wasn't alone. He had this alliance with God, where God was with him, and even while he was in prison. And sometimes we have this feeling that if we're going through bad things, that God has somehow deserted us. But remember that God can be with you if you invite him into your adversity that you are going through. And we also need to have people around us. So Anne Mastent said that it doesn't matter how resilient you are, you need to be connected to others. So do not stay isolated in the midst of your adversity. If you want to turn your adversity into opportunity, find a support group, get counseling help. Find someone you can talk to in your church or your community group, because that is a key factor in helping you to turn your adversity into opportunity. So there you have it, the 5 A's of turning your adversity into opportunities. The first A was attitude. The second was altruism. The third is awareness. The fourth is acceptance. And the 5th is alliance. Practice these 5 A's, and this will take you through anything you're going through in your life and will help you to come out of it unbroken and resilient. And so I want to thank you for being with us on this episode, this podcast of ElimCounselling Services. And I want to remind you that we'll have another interesting podcast for you next week. So stay tuned to this channel to be notified. Hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified each time that we put out another podcast like this. We also want to remind you that we are not for profit, and so we count on your support to continue to help people with this unique work that we do. So thank you so much for listening, and may the Lord be with you in your adversity.